Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Journey Out podcast. We have another amazing episode for you locked in for today. But first, as always, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Please tell everybody that you know about the Journey Out podcast because we are really bringing the community at large resources that they can use on a practical, everyday to day level. So let's just hop right into this amazing episode.
I know some people probably had it hard, but I was blessed. They ain't never saw my mom and dad stressed. They only shows success. I'm living comfy from the sweat off they backs, and that's why all I ever wanted was to give it back. I'm not ashamed cause I was raised right. Nope. I would only be ashamed if I didn't help you fight through the pain, help you journey out the games that your mind played. No matter what, I'm never letting my shine fade away. Forever searching for knowledge, hoping I find grace. Keep your intentions pure, be sure about the risk you take. Pop said failure builds character. I came up short a time or two. Your mind know what your heart been through. Don't let that pressure startle you, and faith out in the Lord will do you justice. We sat and we discuss it. This assistance for the public. A little love will help recover from your struggle. If iron sharpens iron, and let's turn out together forever. J.O.P. Let's Journey Out. Journey Out podcast. Welcome to the Journey Out podcast.
All right. Welcome back to the episode.
Yes.
Welcome back to the podcast. So we have amazing guest, Miss Amanda Schmidt. Now, Amanda, you have a long title after your name. So I need you to tell us who you are, what you do, and all about that title that you have.
Okay. I always put all my credentials because I paid a lot of money for those.
Right,
Amy.
right.
And it took a lot of time for me to get all of that. So I always list it. But my name's Amanda Schmidt. I'm a physical therapist. I have a doctorate in physical therapy. I have a Master of Science. So that's why it's MS. PT, DPT. But like I said, I'm a physical therapist. I've been in practice for 18 years now. I spent the first half of my career at John Peter Smith Hospital, which is a nonprofit hospital in Fort Worth. And again, we were talking prior to airing that, God lays the path down, and he put me at JPS, and angels walk there, and it was an amazing experience. And the second half of my career, I've been at Baylor Scott White Institute for Rehab. Currently, I am with the Dallas team. I did spend a few years in a couple other fields, so hospice and then senior living with Civitas, assisted living and memory care, and the Lord put me there. I learned so much from those two amazing companies, and now I'm back in rehab. My physical therapist heart was just, it had to come back, and the Lord called me back to an amazing team. So previously, I was with the Fort Worth team. Now I'm working with the Dallas team, which is kind of our hub for Baylor Rehab. It's larger. We have many programs happening. We'll talk about that more later, I'm sure. So now I am one of the senior clinical liaisons at Baylor Scott White Institute for Rehab in Dallas. My main focus is business development for both the inpatient rehab side and for our outpatient day neuro centers. Baylor is located on the Baylor University Medical Center campus, so we're connected by a tunnel. So that's kind of the big spot that everybody knows where it's at, and we're right beside it.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, since we got a little background on you, okay, what types of patients do you at Baylor specialize in, and what makes y'all different than any other rehab?
I love to talk about rehab, and not just Baylor, but the level of care. So the acute inpatient rehab setting is a very specialized setting that I think is extremely important and oftentimes overlooked by other levels of care. But I hope that through the podcast today, you all understand the types of patients that will benefit from the intensive services at acute inpatient rehab. So the types of patients at Baylor Dallas that we specialize in are brain injury, spinal cord injury, multi-trauma, amputees, strokes, and we work very closely with the BUMC campus, which is Baylor University Medical Center, and their transplant team. So we treat many, many transplant patients as well. What makes us different, what makes Baylor so amazing, which is why I love this company, is that we in Dallas are a model system. So what a model system is, we're a model system for both brain injury and for spinal cord injury.
Okay.
So that means that we partner with BUMC to conduct research and to also implement research findings.
Cool.
We follow patients through a lifetime with brain injury and spinal cord so that we can see how what we did at our level of care affected their entire life.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing.
Awesome.
We have we have teams. So we have a brain injury team. We have a spinal cord team. We have amputee team as well, transplant. So that means we have doctors assigned to each one of those teams and therapists who only treat those types of patients. So talk about a specialized approach to care that you won't find anywhere else, where you have a doctor and a treatment team that sees stroke all day, every day, and have been at Baylor for 10 plus years. I'm the new kid on the block I was with Baylor previously 5 years and now about 6 months. You know, I'm relatively new compared to the tenure that's on our campus.
That's amazing.
And you know, when we went and we did a little tour, I seen the therapists and the nurses how they were engaged with the patients, right? And it was intentional engagement, right? And it was a beautiful thing.
It really was. And I think when you have all of those teams from trauma, you know, all that you talked about, I know there are special accreditations that come with that, because you guys are targeting a multitude of things, but also patients who are coming in for different things. So what special accreditations does Baylor Scott White Institute Rehab have?
Okay, so we have many. And again, another reason to be very proud of what we do at Baylor Dallas. We have 13 CARF accreditations, and of course, we're JCO certified. So CARF and JCO are independent accrediting agencies that come in and review our hospital and make sure that we're functioning at the highest standards of excellence, not only now, but that we also have implemented plans for the future to maintain that excellence. So we have 13 CARF accreditations. I'll highlight just a few. We are brain injury and spinal cord injury CARF accredited for adults and adolescents. So that's a pretty cool thing, having the adolescent piece. And then amputees and stroke. We also, I'm not done yet. There's
Listen, all you guys do, I don't expect that to less. I don't expect nothing less.
So we are also consistently recognized by Newsweek, and that's all of our hospitals. So Dallas, Fort Worth, Frisco, and Irving, we're recognized consistently every year by Newsweek as being one of the top in the region. And our big party announcement that we've been celebrating for a couple of months now is that Baylor Dallas was ranked 8th by U.S. News and World Report as the 8th best rehab hospital in the nation.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Wow.
That is awesome.
Wow.
So you guys aren't just getting accreditations and just getting titles and saying, look what we can do. There's also proof in the pudding. Like, you're seeing pretty much the quality of life change for everybody who has went through rehab and now are coming home, and you've seen the progression due to you all's, I guess, intentionality, or how you guys really care for the patient. So I absolutely love that. I love that.
So what are your admission criteria for someone that's seeking to, or that have these injuries, right? Or have been through this trauma in their life? What is your admission criteria?
Admission criteria, and this is acute inpatient rehab in general. So this is everyone, you know, and Baylor included. And that is that the patient has to have we have to think that the patient can participate in 3 hours of therapy per day. That doesn't mean they've ever done 3 hours of therapy per day. In fact, none of us have probably ever done 3 hours of therapy per day unless we've been to acute inpatient rehab before. So it just means that we can tell that they have the ability to participate in 3 hours. It's not 3 hours of pumping iron in the gym. You guys saw that.
It's completely different.
Yes. We bring in, you know, our goal is to help people walk, talk, eat, and think again. And if you take a second to think about if you couldn't do one of those 4 things, whether it's walk, talk, eat, think, all of those things significantly impact your life. And so we So the therapy is divided among many things, including cognitive tasks and swallowing and things like that. The other admission piece is that our patients have to require medical oversight. So we have an extensive medical team, specialists, nurses, wound care, physicians, therapists. And so they have to require something that we're managing medically, whether that's blood pressure, diabetes, a whole host of comorbidities that people may have. And so really it's fairly simple as far as just the baseline admission criteria.
Right. And I don't want it to get confused. I know we've talked about brain injuries, spinal cord. I want to talk as basic as a car accident, right? Those things, when those things happen, they are also a candidate for rehab. Is that not correct?
Oh, 100%. Okay. Typically in motor vehicle accidents, we see all kinds of things. So it could be, that's where multi-trauma falls into place. So it's broken bones, maybe organ damage because of things hitting the abdominal cavity, maybe seatbelt, and now we have respiratory disorders. Maybe they were unconscious. They got knocked unconscious. Well, that many times is a hidden brain injury in there because of a lack of oxygen to the brain. And so, yeah, absolutely. Motor vehicle accidents, any of them, bikes, trains, planes, all of it, cars, buildings, unfortunately, accidents where you're falling off of something, 100% candidates for it.
Right.
So since y'all see, for lack of better words, a multitude, right, of different type of injuries, right? What therapies does your patients receive?
So first, whenever somebody's admitted into our hospital, we have physician-led teams who come in and do a head-to-toe assessment. They look at everything, including the medical record that we've gotten on the front end. So we're doing a complete head-to-toe assessment, physicians, wound care, therapy team, respiratory therapy. Everyone's looking at, what is going on with this patient and how can we better serve them.
Right.
Once those assessments are done, then that's when we decide, do they need all three disciplines, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, or do they only need 2 out of the 3? Some of our patients don't necessarily need the speech therapy piece. They need physical and occupational therapy. So then they'll get that. But on top of those therapies, we have recreational therapy, neuropsychology. We also have neurooptometry. We have aquatic therapy for patients who would benefit from that. And so there's a variety of things. But for the 3-hour rule, it's physical, occupational, and speech. So they get at least 3 hours of PT, OT, or speech, and then the rest is in addition to that.
Well, I was going to say, for someone who doesn't know much of anything regarding therapy or rehab or nothing, can you break down the difference between physical therapy, occupational therapy? And of course, you understand speech, but you can break that down as well.
Okay, yeah. So that goes back to the 4 things: walk, talk, eat, and think again. So physical therapy, I say we because I'm a physical therapist. We're helping people get up and be mobile. So what does that look like? Is that standing up and walking? Is that transferring into a wheelchair? Not only do we want them to be mobile, our goal, I used to tell my patients on the front end as I was evaluating them, our goal is to get you out of bed. Right. How can we get you out of bed, and how can we make you the most independent at that as possible? Whether that's walking, whether that's wheelchair, power chair, manual chair, whatever that is. And of course, strengthening. Everything involves strengthening.
Right.
Then occupational therapy comes in. They bring in some of the cognitive piece because we're looking at activities of daily living. So that's eating, dressing, bathing, combing your hair, sequencing those tasks. Also strengthening the muscles that require you to thread your arm through an arm sleeve or to pull your pants up and button them. Things like that. That takes a lot of cognitive capabilities that a lot of people don't realize.
Right.
And then speech therapy looks at swallow and cognition as well. So as a speech therapist, they're making sure the muscles are strong enough for the patient to swallow. If they aren't, how are we going to strengthen those? And then what kind of diet? So eating. So how are we going to enable them to eat, and how do we progress them? So we're not just trying to get them on a diet and leave them there. We're trying to progress them and also make them independent. movement with eating. So it's a collaboration. And then speech therapy also, of course, brings in a huge cognitive component. It's amazing to see our speech and to listen to our speech therapists work. Well, all of our therapists, you guys saw it. It just helping patients and progressing them in that thinking part of it.
Right.
Which is so essential.
So as a physical therapist, right? What is the hardest thing that you've seen with dealing with a patient and the hardest thing that family member had to endure?
I would say the hardest thing treating is when someone is not motivated for one reason or another, depression. Because as soon, I always say any hospitalization or procedure I've ever had, it gives me the blues. You know? And so imagine somebody who wakes up and they can't move their legs. They can't feed themselves. They can't think. Their thoughts are jumbled up. And it can lead to depression where they just don't want to get up. And that's what a lot of acute care therapists work with on the front end. And of course, inpatient rehab therapists do too. But those therapists in our hospitals at JPS, at BUMC, who are getting those patients up for the first time and educating them on what happened and what their life is going to look like now and what their rehab process is going to look like now, is the most difficult. I'm sitting here like, is that what you asked? I'm talking about this.
No, because you answering it because you've been firsthand where you have dealt with those patients, right? And you have seen the struggle, the depression, and things like that, and also from the family outlook.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, that mother, that daughter, that father, that husband, that wife.
Yes.
How do they feel about it?
Oh my goodness! So the family as a whole, you have a patient and then you have lots of other patients in the families. So many times you're talking to all of the family members involved. You know, you might be talking to wife or spouse, but then they want you to talk to brother or sister because they're, you know, can you explain this to this person? And again, educating them on what this person's life is going to look like now, but also giving them hope. And here is how we're going to help them be independent again. These are the things we have to do. And it's hard because families mourning, patients mourning, and that's okay. You have to go through that mourning process. But then we have to be the light, you know, we have to be the light and just help support them and just show up every day to help them. And so we have to start talking to the family about, we think they're going to need XYZ. Who's going to help with this? Who else can you ask? Because we know that one person taking care of one patient is too much. You need a team taking care of someone. And so then, you know, there again, that's where we come into collaborating with private duty home care and home health and looking at all of the ways that we can help our patients and their families get through these injuries.
And I know we're going on a tangent. But
it's fine.
These are the important parts because again, we see this on a day-to-day basis. We're talking to families, and one thing that I hear all the time when I'm going to visit them in the hospital, I don't want to go to rehab. Like, and I'm like, no, you should probably go to rehab. No, I don't want to be in another hospital bed. I don't want to talk to me a little bit about why you think that is. And is that more just like miseducation or just not knowing, or what is that?
I think everybody wants to go home. You know, and I do. I want to go home as fast as possible. I want to get in my comfy pajamas. I want to get in my bed. I want to pet my dogs. You know, a lot of people are missing their animals, things like that. And there's that denial piece. I'm fine. But that's also where acute inpatient rehab is so amazing as a level of care. Because we offer 3 hours per day. So and the average length of stay, it depends. It really, really depends. But it's as few as 2 weeks. And it could be as much as a month or a month and a half, especially if we've got a complicated brain injury, spinal cord injury, things like that. It would be longer. But I educate the family and the patient that this is so short term and the rest of your life is so long term.
I love that.
Wow.
I love that.
Wow,
I love
that's great. And what I'm hearing you saying for those patients, right? As you give them hope and the family members, you helping them get from A. Yeah, we're at A right now. This A don't feel good, but we have A, B, C, D, and all the rest of the alphabet to get through. So this, no matter how it looks right now, just follow these steps.
And I'll say this too for the listeners that are out there listening. If you are going anywhere and it, like you said, minimum 2 weeks, maybe a month and a half, depending on if you're going somewhere like, oh, we can just do it 3 days, or you're talking about some company and people invested in your well-being.
Yes.
They want to see you leave that rehab and still have that same quality of life, or if not better, but or close to it as possible when you leave. And so we have to remember that it's a stepping stone. Not everything is going to be better in a day, in a week, or even in the 2 weeks. However, what you do within those weeks or however long you're there is really what helps benefit that long-lasting time frame that you talked about. And so I love that you said that.
I'm just going to add a little bit there. And we have to recognize the importance of therapy, of rehab, being a specialty, because you wouldn't go have your aunt be your oncologist, okay?
Right.
And so it's the exact same thing with therapy. I have a doctorate in physical therapy. You know, we are at a very high level education-wise and experience-wise to really help people get their maximum function, and not just that, but their maximum independence, because we all want to be independent. So it should be seen as a specialty that you know is no question. Like you know, I've had people say, "Oh, well, my family member can just do my exercise." No, they won't.
No, right. Yes, it's not, and it's not the same.
We don't know what to look for. We don't know if you're doing it properly. You know,
you don't know how to coach them. You don't know how to push them. You don't, you know, okay, maybe that's too much. Maybe that, you know, you have some family members that push way too hard, and you have some that don't push enough. And so it's just, you know, a therapist knows and understands how to progress in a safe way. So I mean, you know, we are so trained in differential diagnosis and like, okay, this actually, I think we need to talk to your doctor about this. Or no, this is fine. We can treat this as a musculoskeletal, you know, XYZ.
Right.
And you know what? You probably answered this, right? What are the innovative ways that Baylor Rehab treats its patients?
Baylor Rehab, because of our relationship with BUMC and the model system and everything like that, we are on the forefront of technology and research. And so there are a myriad of cool things, cool gadgets and treatment approaches that we have that I could go a whole separate podcast on all those things. But I'll just highlight a few of the things that I particularly like. And that is, we have what's called body weight supported treadmill training. And I learned about this actually when I was in PT school 18 years ago, but it's just something that's so beneficial, because what it is it's essentially a hoist harness system that allows us to put patients over a treadmill, take off some of their body weight or most of it, and it allows it frees up the therapist's hands so that they can then facilitate a normal gait pattern with that patient, because we know that after a neurological insult, that the pattern, if we lay down an abnormal pattern, that's what the patient's going to be stuck with. So repetition is key and intensity is key. And so getting them on that system, freeing up the therapist's hands to then facilitate a normal walking pattern in those patients, helps them lay down a normal walking pattern for life, and that's life changing. Again, another reason why our level of care is so important. Life changing. So that person isn't going to limp for the rest of their life. They're going to walk normally. And again, that is where therapists are so important, in that we understand the intensity that's required and how to progress them to push them hard enough, but not too hard.
Right.
We also have something that's really cool, exoskeleton, which is essentially a wearable robot. Head to waist, upper torso area. And it, again, just helps facilitate a normal walking pattern and helps people get up and walk around, and which always brings tears to everyone's eyes to be up and walking normally.
Right.
And so it helps strengthen and, again, frees up therapists' hands so that they can, you have to be specially trained and I'm not. But there are therapists who are, obviously, that work at Baylor Rehab that do that. Mm-hmm. Two other things that I think specifically set us apart is our seating clinic. So we have specific relationships with DME companies. We have therapists who are trained to help provide a wheelchair, cushion, a seating system that is specific to the patient.
Right.
So we're looking at everything. We're doing pressure mapping so that we don't have wounds. And when you guys were there, I told you everything you see is on purpose.
Right.
Yeah, it might look kind of weird, but it is on purpose and for a reason. So you're not going to see everybody have the same wheelchair. And that's because of our relationships, and our case managers have amazing tenure, and they have relationships with nonprofit organizations that help these things get funded.
Wow.
Right.
And that includes toileting equipment. So how many people just have the Walmart toilet seat, well, we actually have multiple kinds of seats and things that they can try out, so that we make sure we get them the right one.
See what's
Not a cookie.
Yeah, nope.
Right.
It's not cookie cutter at all. The last thing that I'll highlight is our technology clinic. And that, again, is where we have trained therapists who bring the patient and family members in to look at cool things for the home. So we're looking at phone access, communication access, so devices to help people communicate, hydration. Hydration is key. So you guys know that, there's all kinds of little things to help people remember to drink water. And patients can try these things out so that they're not just going home and like trialing and spending a lot of money on things. They've actually been able to try these out. I like this. I like that. And again, we partner with nonprofit organizations, insurance, stuff like that, in order to get these things funded.
Love that. Love that. And so I know we talked about the different teams that you all have and how they're kind of physician-led. Now, are the physicians at the rehab daily, on the weekends? What does that look like?
Baylor Dallas is unique in that we have 8+ physicians who are dedicated to us. And so they're with us every single day. We, of course, have physicians on call at night and on the weekends as well. But your doctor's going to be there every day. Or if maybe they take a day off, we'll let them. Or they have, maybe they're participating in research or something. I mean, there's a lot that our physicians are doing. Then we have physicians who help cover, who have also been with Baylor for a very, very long time. And understand how to treat these patients. So it's not just somebody who's doesn't really know or really treat these types of patients. It's a solid backup who is coming in and filling the spot.
So how does your team help plan for a safe discharge?
Oh, my goodness. Safety is priority. And again, y'all know this more than anybody. Anybody in healthcare knows safety is key. At Baylor Rehab, it starts on the front end. So the liaisons, as soon as we get a referral, we're reaching out to the family members and to the patient to talk about their prognosis. Hey, my name's Amanda. I'm with Baylor Inpatient Rehab. We're evaluating your patient or your family member to come in. I wanted to talk to you about your home situation. Who's there? Who's not there? Who works? Who, were they living by themselves? Were they, mom was living by herself, but we know that's not safe anymore. Okay, have you done any research? Have you started talking? A lot of times the answer is no, because families wait until the final moment. And my family included, even though here I am, talking about, we got to do this, but the ultimate decision is never made until it's a crisis situation. And so the liaisons, we start talking about safety on the front end because we have to know who their support system is. And we're communicating that to our physician teams before they're even accepted, before we even have insurance off, before they're even coming over to us. Then once they are a patient with us, then we have weekly interdisciplinary team meetings and family training. So we're bringing family in. We're talking about here they are. Here's where we think they're going to be. This is the equipment we think they're going to need. This is the help we think they're going to need. This is the training we think you need. And family training isn't one and done. Typically, families come up multiple times,
Right.
so that we can talk about all of the things, because it is a very complex situation just to go to the restroom sometimes.
Yes.
And though we get people as independent as possible, healing is a journey, and it is not one and done.
Hold on, what'd you say that again?
Healing is a journey.
It is.
Yes,
It is.
And so we have to educate the family on that too. Because a lot of families think they'll go to rehab, they'll be fine.
Right.
No, this is a journey. It truly is. I've used that phrase so many times. This is, I guess, technically step 2 as far as rehab goes, because step 1 is the rehab in the hospitals, which when I was working at JPS, we used to joke that we never got any of the credit. The inpatient rehabs got all the credit. They were always in the news and stuff like that. And we're like, we started that.
Yeah.
So really we're step 2. But there's many steps after that.
Right. So let's talk about those steps. So they're discharging from Baylor Institute Rehab. What does the next step look like for the patient and for their family?
The next steps depend, and when you're talking to family members all the time, I say, I know you don't want to hear this,
Right.
but it depends.
Right.
It depends on a variety of things. So sometimes our patients will go home with home health. So they go home with home health. Maybe they need additional home care on top of the home health, because it's a lot of people think home health is a solution when it's not. Home health is not there all of the time.
Right.
So we may need home care on top of that. Maybe the most appropriate next step is an outpatient. So maybe they're going to go home and they're going to follow up at an outpatient clinic. Baylor has hundreds of outpatient clinics all over the area. You can't drive very far without seeing Baylor Institute for rehab in this area.
Yeah.
So, and then we have some clinics who specialize kind of in different things, whether it's ortho sports, whether it's neuro, whether it's Parkinson's, dementia, stuff like that. So we can help tailor their diagnosis to the right clinic as well. We also, as an outpatient, have our day neuro services, which is for our neurologically involved patients, and that is up to 6 hours of therapy per day.
Wow.
PT/OT speech, as well as neuropsychology, but that is really for our individuals who are looking to get back to work. So a super high functioning level, that is our goal. So
Right.
I always say it's like if something happened to us, we got to get back to work. We got to get back to taking care of kids, and so it's focused at a higher level of intensity.
Right.
We do have some people who, some of our seniors do participate in day neuro, especially if they're very active. Say they recently retired, but they're still running a business, helping their kids, grandkids, they're just as busy as, anyone else. So as long as they are willing to participate in that, because like I said, it's up to 6 hours of therapy per day. It may be as little as 3. It really just depends. But it's still, even 3 hours of therapy 3 days a week is a lot for a lot of people. We also have neurotransitional clinics, which is apartment style living. And that again is for our neurologically involved patients. Apartment style living, where again, we're focused on intensity. So multiple hours of therapy per day with a little bit more oversight.
Wow.
I love that.
Man. Well, what I'm hearing though is that y'all take care of your patients, but you also take care of the families and you educate them on the steps, first of all, what the doctor's orders are, right? And the steps to get to those orders. Make those orders successful for them in their life. And also the next steps once they're discharged, to say, hey, family, this is what y'all would need to do for
You
y'all.
could benefit from.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is so true. And I've sat in our office and I've even heard where family members will call after they're discharged. I had Dr. So-and-so. Basically, can I talk to them about XYZ? And they'll talk to them,
Wow.
And so it is because we know that the families we have to, family is so important because it's up to us to take care of our loved ones. And so we understand that we have to bring the family in. We have to educate the family on what's going on because they become the support system for the patient and their ultimate success.
Right.
Well,
I love that.
Listen,
Well,
no.
Wait. Go ahead.
Listen, if y'all don't understand this, right, what's going on, what she have said, what Baylor is doing, just rewind it. Listen again. These are resources,
to your brain,
tools. I love it.
I love it too. And I thank you for sharing all of that with us because, again, most people just do not know. And their goal is just thinking, let me get home, but this is how you get home.
Exactly.
And so
and it's how you're successful at home.
Come on. I love that. I love that. And I just thank you for spending your time with us.
Yes.
And tell us all the great things about Baylor Institute Rehab.
Hi, my name's Amanda Schmidt. I am with Baylor Scott White Institute for Rehab. I am one of the senior clinical liaisons. We are located at 909 North Washington in Dallas. We are an acute inpatient rehab facility where we specialize in 3 hours of therapy per day. Specifically in Dallas, our specialties lie within traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, stroke, amputees, multi-trauma, and transplants.
We absolutely love you guys. And we're not just saying it again. Like she said, we've been there. We've seen it firsthand. So we know exactly what's going on. So I thank you so much for coming on. And I hope this episode was just such full of gems for you all because it was for me. And I just know that this will benefit anybody who takes the listening. So please, like you said, rewind it if you didn't understand something. Leave a comment, whatever you got to do. But please like, share, subscribe. And we will see you on the next Journey Out episode. Bye-bye, y'all.
Peace out.
Peace out.